Good morning and welcome to Lincoln Ware Live. We're here every Sunday morning from 10 until 11, and as usual, we've got a great lineup for you today. First of all, I want to thank Lisa K. Crawford for filling in for me last week, and she always does a fantastic job. And thank you once again, Lisa K. Crawford. My guest today, we've got Steve Condon from Truepoint Incorporated, a financial planner. We'll talk about the $300+ billion bailout, how it will affect you. We'll talk about if you've got money in your local banks here, is it safe? The government has increased the insurance on that. We'll talk about, is it going to be easier to get a car loan? It may be a lot tougher to get a car loan nowadays than it was a few days ago. Maybe the buy here, pay here lots will see a boom. Who knows? We'll talk about that. We'll answer all of your questions. If you have any financial questions, we'll answer those questions today. Then on the second half of the show, we'll talk to NAACP local president Christopher Smitherman. We'll talk about the early voting. We'll talk about the registration. Tomorrow is the last day you can register to vote in the November 4th election. We'll talk about that. And we want to talk about how many people are showing up to vote early. Talk about, and the felons. Don't forget, still confusion out there. If you are a felon in Ohio, guess what? You still can vote. There's still a lot of confusion going on there. A lot of people just can't understand how that works. But yes, if you are a felon in Ohio, you can vote. We'll talk about that a little bit later on with Christopher Smitherman. And had an article in the paper about him today also, about him sending back a $125 check from Jeff Birding, sent it back to him, said, we don't want you to come to our dinner. Thanks, but no thanks. And we'll talk about that coming up later on. But this big $300 billion plus bailout, Steve, man, how is it going to affect the local folks right here in Cincinnati?
Well, I think we saw a little bit of that in the last week, and it's what was one of the primary impetuses for Congress to finally move on this, as we started to see it trickle down. Some of the local banks having trouble in terms of their stock prices. You mentioned car loans, the credit markets, whether it's consumer spending for housing, for cars, starting to dry up. So I do think it's something that's needed. Okay, it's drying up right now. Will it get better? I mean, if after everything is in place, they allocate the $300+ billion, will things get better? You won't have to have a great credit rating to just get a used car. Yeah, that's certainly the goal, and the program that's been put in place will probably take another 2 to 4 weeks to put in place and start executing. But essentially the goal is that all the banks have stopped lending because they have these mortgage assets on their books that aren't paying off anymore, and banks are even afraid to lend to each other. Therefore, they're not lending to the consumer. So the government's plan is to go in, buy these bad debts from the banks, allow them to operate in a more normal environment where we can see more willing lending for housing, for cars. But it may still be a few weeks before we start to see that come to fruition and that money start flowing again. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and take some of your questions at 513-381-3838. That's 513-381-3838, or you can call it 651-3838. Give us a call if you've got any financial questions. We'll answer them this morning. Back in a moment. We are back live. Steve Condon, my guest this morning, financial planner. Want to hear from you, 381-3838, 651-3838. If you've got questions on this economic bailout, the extra pork that was added, a lot of people are upset about that. And what do you think about that? I mean, this was probably the best view that the general public has had of the legislative process as things played out over the week. And it's ugly. And I think you see what we usually don't see is some of the goings-on in Congress and the political environment of these trade-offs that occur in order to get to passage. So it's disappointing to see that play out. Ultimately, getting the bill through was important, but certainly some of the trade-offs that have to be made, some of the deals that have to be made, and as you said, some of the pork that's added into the bill is almost unbelievable. Yeah. Now, what about people who were facing foreclosure? Are they able to deal with these lenders now to get maybe a fixed rate
because a lot of these people went in, their initial payments they could afford. They got those ARMs and the ARM, and boom, the payments go up, they can't afford it, they're in the foreclosure. Can they go back and talk to these people to see if maybe they can get a fixed rate?
And that right there, you just put your finger on the key to the whole crisis. The underlying fundamental problem is that people have mortgages that they can't afford, and in many instances, the mortgages are now have higher value than the home itself because of some of the price declines. There is in this recent bill language to the effect that it would allow for some renegotiation or reframing of some of these mortgages. It's yet to be seen how that'll play out, but that really is a fundamental problem. When you have people whose mortgages are more than the home's value, the incentive then is just to walk away and default, which continues the spiral that we're in. So there does need to be something done to address that fundamental issue of making sure people have payments that they can afford to make on homes that have a value that is stable.
Now, what about 401k? If anybody's got a 401k, I've got one. I'm almost afraid to look at it. But what should they do? Should they stay put, or should they start moving that money around now?
Typically speaking, in environments like this, it creates fear, it creates panic, and the temptation to act. But in the vast majority of cases, the best thing you can do is take no action. What you certainly don't want to do, particularly if it's a 401k, you're investing for retirement, there's a long-term objective. The single worst thing you could do is sell out of any of your stock investments now at this point in time, because essentially you've just locked in what until now are paper losses, essentially. You've locked those in as permanent losses. If anything, adding new money to some of your stock investments, or just rebalancing your portfolio. So for example, if your target had been 60% stocks and because of the decline, it's now 45%, rebalancing back to 60% allows you to take advantage of this environment. Very uncomfortable to go through, but it is opportunistic.
So you're saying just stay put, don't get crazy and start moving things, because it could be, in the long run, it could hurt you.
Absolutely right. Easier said than done, but the best thing to do is to try to capitalize on the situation by investing at a lower point than to be selling out. And the analogy that's always made is if you're looking to buy anything else, when it goes on sale, you view it as more attractive. Well, in the stock market, people react exactly the opposite. They become more willing to invest when stocks are appreciating, everything's very positive, but prices are going up. When we're in situations like now where pessimism is rampant, people are very hesitant to invest, but that's the best.
That's the best time to do it.
Absolutely right.
Best time to do it, because you never know. You could make a fortune in a little or no time when things start to turn up.
Yeah, the key is to remain diversified so you don't have any significant risk in an individual company. That's where an environment like this can be absolutely devastating. If you had a large concentrated investment, for example, in Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or one of these financial institutions that we've seen decimated, then you're in a heap of trouble. Yeah. Remaining diversified, not holding any significant individual company risk, and just keep buying, and that's the best approach.
And companies like Procter & Gamble, they're always safe companies to invest in. It seems like to me that they just always there.
Yeah, certainly in this town, Procter's the one that's it's looked towards, and I deal with a great number of clients whose wealth was built in Procter, have significant Procter holdings, and if there was one company that you'd look to as being somewhat stable, that'd be Procter. And as a consumer staples company, that's one that's held up fairly well. The risk is still there, whether it's Procter or any other company, of that individual company risk. So you probably want to keep that exposure to 10% or less of your assets, but they've certainly held up better than the financial institutions or some other areas.
Their long run, they've been...
it's been extraordinary.
Yes. All right, let's go to the telephones, 513-381-3838, 651-3838. Let's go to Paul. Paul, how are you? Hello. Okay, is Paul.
Good morning. How you doing that way, Lincoln?
How you doing, Paul?
How your guest doing?
He's doing great. Go ahead. Turn your TV down. We can hear your TV.
Yeah, great.
And turn your TV down and ask your question.
Yes, sir. Hey, I disagree with him because if I kept my stock at a local bank here in Cincinnati in '99, and when they sold out in '03, my stock went from $30 a share down to $4 a share. Now, if I put my money out in '02 when I did, I got more than I would have got to this day. So what's your take on that? You better get your money while you got it.
What bank was that it went from 30 to 4?
Provident Bank. I worked there 15 years, and now National City took over, and I watch stocks every day at noon. And I seen the stock drop, and right before they bought it out, I went down and got my money and turned it onto an IRA account and put it in CDs to make sure I had my money. And I ended up, if I wouldn't have did it then, I would have had $4,000 to this day getting my money. Back then, I got $40,000. So I don't disagree with him, but I don't agree with him. I'm like Martha Stewart, get it when you can.
All right. All right. Thanks for your call.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And
the key there is, again, the individual company risk. So whether it was Provident at that time or some of the bank stocks that have trouble lately here locally, was National City or Fifth Third, it's reducing your exposure to any individual company. Now, equities in general, stocks in general, since that 2002 time frame, have actually had a decent recovery. So stocks in general are still a wise investment. It's just making sure you eliminate that individual company risk that he was referring to. The alternative of CDs or another sort of guaranteed type investment is always there. The difference is because there's much less risk, the longer term return also is going to be much lower.
Now, tell me this. You keep hearing that we're borrowing money from China, and China is financing the war and everything. How does that affect that whole situation?
Yeah, and essentially what that refers to is whenever the government needs to raise funds, they're selling treasury bills, and essentially they're just selling IOUs. And China and Japan are actually two of the largest purchasers of those treasury bills. So that debt is in the hands of, outside of this country, in some of other foreign countries. And in the new package that's being passed, essentially we're going to be selling more of that debt. But one thing to keep in mind when we look at debt is, although these numbers are amazing in terms of their size, our national debt as a percentage of our gross domestic product is actually 25% lower today than it was in the mid-90s. So although the numbers are significantly high, they're not as high as we've been at previous points in time, but you will hear that concern relayed of if China, if Japan, if some of these other entities are no longer interested in buying, where are we going to raise those funds? But to date, that hasn't been a problem.
Now, and we'll get to more calls in just a minute. We need to take a quick break. And then I want to find out about some of the other situations going on here as far as whoever wins the presidency. Well, when they get in office, will everybody say, well, we don't have any money for your programs? What will happen then? We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back and take your calls on Lincoln Ware Live. Back in a moment. And we're back live. Lincoln Ware Live is a program. Steve Condon is my guest from Truepoint Incorporated. He's a financial planner, and I know you've been busy lately. People are calling you. What do I do?
Understandably, people are concerned, and with this being in the news 24/7, you're bombarded by these messages. You can't help but be concerned about your assets, the economy, what's going on.
All right, let's go to Charles. Charles, good morning. You're on Lincoln Ware Live. How are you?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Ware.
What's your question?
Want to ask your guest, I'm trying to figure out what the difference is. I was watching the news this morning. They said we in a recession. And I'm trying to figure out what's the difference in the recession and the depression they had back in the 30s.
All right, thanks for your call.
Good question, and that's certainly something you see thrown out there all the time now, is relating this back to the Depression. This certainly is one of the more severe financial crises we've had, but anything being related to the Depression is probably not a great comparison. The Depression was a whole different ballgame. Unemployment was at 25%. When a bank failed back then, it failed, it went under, and all your assets were gone. FDIC insurance wasn't in place. Today, unemployment's at 6%. We're likely to see that to rise, but maybe 8 to 10%. The scenario was drastically different then, and part of it is because of the safeguards that are in place today and what we've learned from some of the crises that we've gone through in the past. This would be more similar to what we saw in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, and it is really a normal turn of events in sort of the economic cycle.
Speaking of the FDIC insurance, it's gone from $100,000 up to $250,000, I believe?
Correct. As part of this bill, in theory, that's temporary for the next couple of years. Now, whenever something comes out in a bill, government along those lines, it's hard to take it back. So we'll see if that goes away. But yeah, an account is insured up to $250,000, and in the history of the FDIC, there's not been one penny of insured money that's ever not been paid back. So the key is just making sure your accounts are within those insurance levels, and you shouldn't have any concerns about the bank it's with.
All right, let's go to Lily. Lily, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Leak and Ware?
Pretty good.
I was worried about my cousin in Avondale, Leak and Ware, right?
Say what
He
now?
was on the news. Lilywood got saying that you got Leak and Ware. I'm walking your show now. Wave my hand at you, Leak and Ware.
Okay.
You see, my cousin TT died in Avondale.
Do you have
Avondale, right?
Do you have a financial question?
I want Bahama be the president. Bahama.
Okay, thanks for your call. Who's screening these calls? Anyway, Steve, I want to thank you for coming out on a Sunday morning, talking finance with us this morning, but you've got to be a busy guy, and hopefully things turn around after everything is in place. You say about 3 or 4 weeks, everything should be in place, and this $300 billion plus money should be allocated, and the buyout should take place, and we should be okay.
Then the real work begins, and we'll see how the government does.
And what if this whole thing doesn't help any? And
we're still going to see a recession. The economy is still going to see tough times, but this bill being in place hopefully prevents it from being a severe recession. And with the political calendar that we're on, this whole problem is going to be handed off, and then it's going to be a whole new set of people handling it. So it'll be interesting how that goes as well.
Yeah, because I know Barack Obama has a lot of programs he want to put in. I'm just afraid they're going to say, we don't have any money to do it.
Right. And the key pick will be, who's their Treasury Secretary going to be? That's now Henry Paulson. Well, essentially, he's developed this program. Well, who's really going to be implementing come January 1?
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Steve Condon, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
How can people reach you if they want to call you?
We're Truepoint Inc. We actually have 2 service levels, Truepoint Capital and TruePath Financial. You can visit either of those websites, TruePointCapital.com or TruePathFinancial.com. Just Google those names and you should be able to find us.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Thank you for joining us. And we'll come back and talk to NAACP local president Christopher Smitherman, talk to him about early voting, voter registration, and how things are working down at the Board of Elections. We'll be back in just a moment. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. And once again, I want to thank Lisa K. Crawford for filling in for me last week. And she did an excellent job. So thanks once again to Lisa K. Crawford. My guest for the remainder of the show, none other than Cincinnati NAACP President Christopher Smitherman. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Lincoln, thanks for having me.
It's always good to have you in here. Tell us a little bit about early voting. We kicked it off last Tuesday.
September 30th.
And man, people are responding like you wouldn't believe to early voting. Matter of fact, you were camped out down at the Board of Elections on Monday night. You camped out and you were the first person to vote in Hamilton County.
Yes, very excited about that. And you're right, early voting started, Lincoln, September the 30th, and it goes all the way up until November the 2nd. But what's interesting about September 30th through tomorrow is that people can register and vote at the same time. And the Cincinnati NAACP, we've been working very, very hard with our voter empowerment chair, Jesse Jenkins, and many others in coordinating, getting people down and registering them and having them vote the same day.
Now, there was some controversy behind being able to register and vote on the same day. I guess you had a week. There's a week in there, and the Secretary of State really didn't want this to happen.
Yes, well, the Republican Party went to as far as the Ohio Supreme Court with an appeal, but the Supreme Court justices, who are majority Republicans, said you all created this, and in their ruling allowed us to begin that process on Tuesday morning. So it was very exciting.
How is it working? Can the Board of Elections handle this?
Well, let me say, Joe Mallory is doing a phenomenal job in managing the Board of Elections. I call that the mothership. You know, there's no provisional ballots cast there. If you go there and your address isn't accurate, they fix it right there, and then you go in and you vote. So that's the exciting piece, and it's been incredibly orderly. So I have to give him a big high five for Hamilton County and how he's been running a a very professional operation at the Board of Elections.
And speaking of registering to vote, tomorrow is the last day. Is that correct?
It is the last day for people to actually go in, register, and vote. And you know, I'm encouraging everyone. This is historic, Lincoln, that people should be registering. So when they look back 20 years from now, they can say they participated in this presidential election.
Now, early voting, people, that's the best way to do it because the lines will probably be long on November 4th. They'll have the largest turnout in probably the history of voting this coming November 4th. The lines will be long. So if you can get downtown to vote early, I would suggest people doing that, wouldn't you?
Yes, and I absolutely agree with that. You know, on November the 4th, we could get rain, we could get snow, we could get technical issues. People going down to the Board of Elections, no matter where they live in Hamilton County, because we've gotten calls of people saying, I live in this part. If you live in Hamilton County, go down to the Board of Elections and cast your vote now and early.
All right, we're taking calls at 381-3838. The area code is 513. Or you can call 513-651-3838 if you have questions for Chris Smitherman. In the paper today, they had a little article about you and Jeff Birding. I guess the Freedom Fund dinner comes up. When is that?
The Freedom Fund dinner is this Friday at the Duke Energy Center. It starts at 6 o'clock. Thomas Todd is our keynote speaker. He's a great civil rights attorney. I am sure he's going to bring it because this is a historic election and Ohio is a key state. And all of the politicians will be present. No matter what they say in the newspaper, Friday will be the place to be if you're out and you're running for election.
It costs $75.
$75 to get in. And the issue regarding Councilmember Jeff Birding, he sent a $125 check, which is different than the $75.
Right.
And he was requesting to be a bill of freedom and actually go on our host invitation that we send out to approximately 5,000 people.
And you didn't want that?
I did not want that because Councilmember Jeff Birding has clearly on issues at the NAACP, whether it's the jail issue, whether it's cutting swimming pools, whether it's cutting health clinics, and most recently our position on proportional representation. He's in the Business Courier calling us un-American, undemocratic, just really using some language that is very, very concerning. 50 years ago, calling someone a communist was a really bad thing. Calling somebody un-American right now is paramount to that. So, and we don't have any permanent political enemies. You know, for example, Congressman Steve Chabot right now has written a letter of support on an issue that's important. Now, people say that it's political. They can say whatever they want to say. What I can tell you is the money is still in place. The deadline was extended to November the 1st. And if Steve Chabot had not intervened, that money for our health department would have already been gone. So we don't have political permanent enemies. What we do is we try to reach out in a very nonpartisan way and find collaboration around issues that we all can agree on.
All right, let's go to the telephones, 513-381-3838. Monica, good morning. Turn your TV down and ask your question.
Good morning. Hi, Councilman Smitherman and Lincoln Ware.
Good morning.
Did she call you councilman? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
My question is for both of you guys. I want to see what type of reaction answer I can get. I am here, and I've been asking people to go out and get their acknowledgments for voting for Barack Obama. What would you say for people my age? I am 29 years of age, and you know, we got some people who are ignorant who does not go out and register to vote. What would you say for those people to try to get them out to vote?
Well, Monica, this election will decide the difference of the Supreme Court and who sits and who's empowered on the national level. For example, John Conyers, the chair of the Judiciary Committee for the United States of America. Ultimately, Joe Deters reports to Congressman John Conyers. So you want to make sure that you're voting your interest. People a lot of times don't believe, Monica, that national issues actually impact their local life. The Supreme Court is real, and those appointments are for life. So the next president, whoever that person is, will determine the balance of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. and will also oversee the laws, whether it's jails or whether it is how laws are held up in our country. So this is incredibly important. I suggest to voters, we're nonpartisan, Lincoln and Monica. We can't endorse a particular candidate, but we tell people to vote for closures. You know, to vote this economic crisis, and where are they on the war on Iraq? And where are they on healthcare issues?
People have no healthcare.
More of our people do not have access to healthcare than ever before. So keeping our health clinics open, which is one of the issues Councilman Jeff Birding and I don't see eye to eye on. So when you start talking about cutting resources to health clinics, Lincoln, based on where our community is, with infant mortality rates being 3 times higher and looking like third world country levels, cutting our health clinics is serious. So Nicole, those are the kinds of things that I suggest young people look at, and we seriously need you tomorrow to show up at the Board of Elections and register to vote. And if you're a felon, you can vote. You can register and you can vote, and we encourage people to do that.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you.
Thanks for your call. Why is there so much confusion with the felons and voting? There seems to be so much confusion about that.
And Lincoln, I've heard you talk about this on the radio. I've heard you talk about it on the TV. I think there's a measure of campaigning to try to confuse people about the issue. And it might happen when people are actually in jail. We never know what people, you and I haven't been in jail, so we don't know what they're saying. But people come out with this feeling that they can't restore their voting rights, and they can with just simply registering and voting.
Okay, all right. Remember, felons, even if you are in jail awaiting trial, you have a right to vote.
No question. And this tomorrow, emphasizing, Lincoln, is the last day
to register.
To register. Now, you can continue to vote if you're registered all the way up to November the 2nd early.
If you're not registered, tomorrow is the day.
And the door closes. And everybody in is in. So I encourage everybody to call their uncles and their aunts and their mothers and call them on the carpet. Are you registered to vote, and are you going to participate in this political process?
All right, let's go back to the telephones. Let's go to Alex. Alex, you have a question?
Hello?
Yes, speak up.
How you doing? I was just trying to find out where do guys go and get registered at?
Where you actually go to get registered.
Well, at this point, probably the Board of Elections is the best place
to go. You can come to the NAACP office tomorrow, which is 4439 Reading Road. We will be running the forms down, me personally and our staff. So we'll be taking them constantly to the Board of Elections.
So they can come to the NAACP.
They can come to the NAACP office. It's on Reading Road, 4439. I wouldn't necessarily go to the library because we don't know whether they'll transport them down by 9 o'clock to the Board of Elections. So you want to be able to vote, and the best place I say tomorrow that I have control of is the NAACP office. Anybody who registers to vote at the NAACP, we will courier them down directly to the Board of Elections.
If you can't make it there, then downtown is your next best answer,
right,
directly at the Board of Elections.
And it's
that way you don't have to worry about missing the deadline.
And if you go down there to register, vote while you're there.
You can just register and vote tomorrow. How about that?
Appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome. And 281-1900 is the number to the NAACP office.
All right, let's go to James. James, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Link? How you doing? Hey, how you doing, Mr. Smitherman?
How are you doing, James?
I'm good, man. I just want to call you and thank you because I was the guy that was driving the white van.
Okay.
Okay, and I would like to thank Mr. Smitherman for having me, being a part of that and a part of that function because I'm a 47-year-old black man, and history is about being made, and I want to be a part of that, and I'd like to thank him.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Smitherman.
You're welcome, and we appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for your call. Now, one of the things that Jeff Birding and you disagree on is proportional representation. That's on the ballot November 4th. Explain proportional representation to people out there that may not be familiar with it.
And PR has had a history of racism that's very acute in our community. In 1955, the white community ran a campaign saying the undesirables are now being elected. Because proportional representation, you begin to elect based on a lot of things. One is ideology, the other is race, the other is gender. So the population was 16 to 20% African Americans, and 2 African Americans were elected. This was right when the time that Emmett Till was murdered in Mississippi and was being brought back to the Midwest, to Chicago, where his mother laid him out in Chicago. That's very close to the city of Cincinnati. And there was a campaign that Black Power was coming into play. The undesirables are now being elected. That's why we're so sensitive to what Councilmember Jeff Birding is doing now when he starts calling us extremists and un-Americans and not democracy. But PR, basically, the citizen goes in and they rank their candidates 1 through 9. They're able to show their preference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Their first ranking is more powerful and weighted than their 9th ranking. So if their number 1 person is elected in this case, then on their ballot alone, we now go to their 2nd person that they ranked, and then their 3rd person. 90% plus of people under proportional representation elect somebody that they rank. Now, I'm letting you know that I go to the ballot box in the winner-take-all system that we have now, where you are just voting for up to 9. And many times I walk out of there and I don't elect somebody that I voted for. As a nonpartisan organization, I can't tell you who I voted for in order to prove that, but I would. But I'll let you know that the people that I voted for, the 4 to 5 people, none of them were elected in the last race.
All right, let's go to Hillary. Hillary, good morning.
Good morning. I just have 2 quick questions and then I'll hang up. The first one is, it seems like as far as our current council members across the board, anyone who is taking a position on proportional representation is taking a position against it. And I wonder if you have any idea why that would be. And my second question, I don't want to get you all off topic if that's not what you want to do, but I'm wondering if you have anything to say about what's going on in Hamilton County with the disparity between the treatment of the criminal justice system under black people and white people, particularly in light of Jody Edwards, now Brenda Slavey being on Oprah, and what's going on, the criminalization of our black moms and black families. So those are my 2 questions. I'll hang up and listen.
Okay, thanks for your call. Let's answer the second one first. You guys will be down at the courthouse tomorrow.
We'll be down in Judge Mock's courtroom.
Now, let me tell you this. I heard Judge Mock was going to be in courtroom A and not in his regular courtroom. All right, I don't know. That's what I heard.
Okay. So Judge Mock says he's going to avoid this one. He's not going to deal with this one. But there's a young man down there right now on a $500,000 straight bond for child endangerment. Okay. The Cincinnati NAACP, we don't condone hurting any child. His story is he fell asleep, he woke up, and his child was bit by the children that were there. He took his child to the doctor. They called 241 Kids. They've taken away his children, but they also have him incarcerated on a $500,000 straight bond. He's 19 years old and has never been in jail before. And the Cincinnati NAACP, we've met with him and we've had conversations with him. We're concerned about the differences. Here we have Slavey out in Claremont. We have Edwards here in Hamilton County. Both have dead babies. Both of them are white women, but we constantly see African Americans in similar circumstances being locked up. And then we have another woman who wasn't incarcerated, but she came before Judge Mallory. She was incarcerated one day. He let her out on her own recognizance, but her story was she went to work at Lincoln Heights Crawford Nursing Home and came back to be arrested because she left her 12-year-old in the care of the other 3 children. So she's going to come back on October the 16th, and we'll be in Judge Mallory's courtroom for that case, too. It's really about the disparity treatment, and we're very, very concerned about that.
Okay, her other question about most of the members of council not in favor of PR.
Well, proportional representation really takes away from the power base of the political parties, the Republicans, the Democrats. So we expected both of the major parties to not support proportional representation because it really empowers the voter. It transfers it to him. As far as Council Member Jeff Birding, he's running for re-election in 2009. I think that proportional representation doesn't lend well to his possibility of being re-elected, so he's really out fighting for his political life to make sure that PR doesn't pass.
All right, we need to take a break. We'll come back and take more phone calls. Aline, David, Ms. Coleman, Rhonda, all holding on. We'll get to you. Christopher Smitherman is my guest. We'll take a quick break, and we'll return to Lincoln Ware Live right after these messages. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. My guest, Christopher Smitherman, who is the president of the local branch of the NAACP, and he says he's not running for office in 2009. It's been said you had a political stake in PR and you were going to run in 2009. You saying you're not running in 2000?
I'm on the Lincoln Ware Show, looking you straight in your face. You can play the tape if I come back as a candidate. I'm not running for city council in 2009. And I specifically did that in order to move that agenda off as a distraction to the importance of proportional representation. And a lot of times people don't understand, Lincoln, that we actually went out and collected the signatures for PR. So we collected the 29,000 signatures for issue 7 and issue 8. It's a yes vote on 7, which bans red light cameras, and a yes vote on 8. And I felt so proud to be the first person to vote in Hamilton County to vote yes on 7 and 8. I mean, to walk in there and actually see it on the ballot was really exciting.
All right, let's go back to the telephone. Let's go to Aline. Aline, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing fine. How are you?
Pretty good.
I was trying to find out, do you all know possibly what we to expect come Election Day? Because I feel like a lot of people was intimidated once they get into the booth. And, you know, as far as the thing that took place with the chads and the ballot, I would just want to know if this somehow we could get a tab that could help us practice or...
All right, you wanted like a sample ballot or something?
Yes, sir, a sample ballot.
Okay. I don't know if those are available ahead of time.
But you can go on the website to actually see what all the issues are all the way across Hamilton County. And then you sort out which issues you're going to be able to vote on, because there they show you everything, every judge, every issue, you know. But what I encourage you to do, what is her name?
Eileen.
Eileen,
yes, sir.
I really encourage you to go to the Board of Elections now.
Yes, sir.
And vote before November the 4th in order to move this issue off of the table. In every state, for example, I spoke to my brother in Michigan, and he said, man, they're letting you guys vote now. This is unusual, so we should take advantage of being able to go to the Board of Elections and cast our votes before November the 4th. So I hope to see you down there tomorrow as we are implementing Operation Crash the Polls tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thanks for your call. All right, let's go to David. David, you have a question?
Yes, how you doing?
Pretty good.
I'm a SEIU healthcare organizer.
Yes.
And whoever need to register to vote, I will be out today until 12 o'clock midnight.
And where will you be?
I will be downtown over the Rhine.
Okay, what street?
13, 14, 15, 5, race. I'll be walking around with my pamphlet in my hand.
All right.
All right, David. I tell you, SEIU has done a wonderful job. And Lincoln, you know, when you were on the radio, they came and provided two vehicles for you.
Yeah.
And there was one woman who was 65 years old who said she had never voted
in her
before.
life. I couldn't believe it.
Isn't that wild? And she felt so empowered. I mean, that was one of the moving trips that we took down. And she went down with her sister or her friend.
65 years old, never voted in her entire life.
And she came up there to the Urban League, got in that van, and went down and voted. So congratulations to you on that.
Let's go to Miss Coleman. Miss Coleman, how are you?
Blessed.
Good.
How are you and your guests?
Doing well.
Great.
I have two questions to ask. Number one, I wanted to know if you all know the number to the Board of Election where they give people rides to go and vote. They pick them up and take them to their voting places.
I think, well, I don't think the Board of Election provides rides, but places like the NAACP.
If you need a ride tomorrow, call 281-1900, and the Cincinnati NAACP will coordinate with our partners and get you down to the Board of Elections. So just call 281-1900. We have a bus coordinated through Withrow. So we're going to be at Withrow with a 55-passenger bus to take their 12th graders at 2 o'clock tomorrow. That bus will be there, and we're taking all of their 12th graders and any of their parents who want to go down and vote, and we're taking them to the Board of Elections and bringing them back to Withrow. So the young lady here who's calling in, if you'd like to be at Withrow, at around 2 or 2:15 in the parking lot. In the back, we'll be there with a 55-passenger van. Get on. We'll take you down and bring you back.
Okay, I have another quick question to ask. I have moved, and I hadn't registered to vote here where I live at now. But yesterday, on the way back from the hairdresser, there was a guy at Speedway on Coleraine Avenue. I was glad to see him so I could register. And I asked him for a number to call, and he gave me the phone number to McCain's people. And right away, I was looking up and listening to the show this morning, but I'm not going that route.
Did you call it? Did you call his sister? Did you call McCain's office to register?
I called him last night, and I found out what it was, and I scratched that.
Thank God, God has given you some good common sense.
Thanks for your call.
Excuse me. I need to know, you said 281-1900?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I'm handicapped.
Yes, ma'am. Call 281-1900, and we will work to get you to the Board of Elections.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks for your call.
Thank you. Again,
All right.
we have Operation Crash the Poll, and we're trying to get everybody down there. The largest number of people is 1,200 that Joe Mallory said that have voted in one day, and we want to break that way out. I mean, we hope that 5,000–6,000 people vote tomorrow.
All right, Cassie.
Yes, hello.
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Okay, I have a question. Is it true that you can't wear any kind of like Obama T-shirts, hats, or pins or anything like that to the voting polls?
Yeah, I had Joe Mallory on my radio show last week, and he says that they can't enforce that rule that people coming into the polls to vote cannot wear any McCain, Obama T-shirts and things like that. You could either turn them inside out or don't wear them at all because they can turn you away.
Yeah, I've heard that. Well, a lot of people are not aware of that. Is there any way that you can get information to these people?
No more than I'm doing now on TV and radio. We're getting it out there as much as we can.
Yeah.
Let's just hope that they won't wear the Obama T-shirts and hats, the McCain shirts and things like that, because this is a law that's been that's been on the books for a long time. They just never enforced it.
Right.
But I do believe this election they will enforce it. At least that's what I'm getting from Joe Mallory, who's down at the Board of Elections.
And he's a very reasonable man. If you had a button on, and I'm not speaking for Joe Mallory, but I would say that he would just say, take your button off, ma'am, and he'd do it very respectfully. If you had a T-shirt on, he'd say, go to the bathroom, flip it over, and come back. I mean, they're not gonna turn you away from the polls. They're gonna say, you need to handle that business and then come back in and cast your vote.
Okay, because I received that email from my sister.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's true. It's true.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for your call.
Okay. Peace and blessings.
All right.
Peace and blessings to you.
And something you can do, just send that email on to some of your friends there, and hopefully that'll get the word out. Barbara, how are you?
Fine, Lincoln. How are you? Good morning, Mr.
Pretty good.
Smitherman.
Good morning, Barbara. How are you?
I'm fine. I went to vote yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
And the thing that I found surprising was there were so many presidential candidates. And Obama's name was way down at the bottom of the line. So just to let people know, you may have to really pay attention to what you're doing and don't go in a hurry and just say, well, I know who I'm voting for because his name is almost at the end. It's about 10 or 15 candidates, I believe, that's running.
That's right.
So I just wanted to put that in.
Barbara, may I ask you, did you vote yes on 7 and 8?
Yes.
All right, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay.
We appreciate you.
Thanks for your call.
Hey, look, that's at least one vote.
Right.
And I definitely voted yes on 2 votes.
2 votes you had. Now, do they put them in alphabetical order, the presidential candidates?
No,
are they
I didn't notice that. But what I'll share with you is that I had the same feeling when I voted. I went all the way down the list. I can't say who I voted for, but I almost broke it, That would have been a breaking story. But I felt that there were a lot of people there that were on the ballot that I hadn't heard.
And somebody might just say, well, I don't see, not go down the list and say, I don't see Obama's name or something, not even vote for him. I don't know.
And there aren't any Chads. Somebody mentioned Chads.
Chad,
this is all coloring in
the block, and then you speed it into the machine.
And my grandmother, who is 99 years old, who's on the front page of the Herald this week, she went down and filled in the bubble. So if she can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah. And it's so easy. Then after you fill them in, just just slide it into the machine, and it's over.
You're
The flag will wave.
That's right.
To show that your vote is counted,
That's
and
right.
you're good to go.
Now, down at the Board of Elections, you actually fold it and put it in an envelope and seal it and drop it into a metal box.
Now early voting.
Early voting.
Early voting.
Early
Okay.
voting, that's right. And then you sign your name, and then they
Okay.
will bring it and do that piece. But
Okay.
I suggest that everybody, please hear me. Please go and vote early. Do not wait until the last minute. This is a unique opportunity for us to cast our votes early, not run out of paper, not deal with long lines, not deal with bad weather. Go to the Board of Elections and vote.
All right, Chris Smitherman, thank you for joining me this
Lincoln,
morning. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so very much for having me.
And we wanted to get the word out for people. The last day is tomorrow to register to vote, and then you have until November the 4th to vote early if you want to vote early. And then November the 4th, if you don't vote early, get out there and vote.
And vote yes on 7 and vote yes on 8.
8, all right. And let me throw one in, vote yes on 6. Anyway, thank you, Chris, for joining us.
Lincoln.
All right,
Appreciate
we're going to
it.
take a quick break and come back and wrap things up right here on Lincoln Ware Live on It's 38. We'll take a quick break and come back in just a few moments. Back in a few. And we are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. I only have a few minutes left here. Today at noon on It's 38, Paul Hogan and Michael Caton starring the movie Strange Bedfellows. That's at noon today on It's 38. If you want to see a rebroadcast of this show tonight at 8 o'clock on WOTH Channel 25, that's at 8 o'clock tonight. Following the rebroadcast of this show at 9 o'clock will be the professional English soccer. We've got the Bolton Wanderers will play the Newcastle United. That's tonight at 9 o'clock on Channel 25, okay? And don't forget, join me Monday through Friday from 10 till 2 on WDBZ, the new 1230 a.m., Monday through Friday from 10 till 2. Check me out then. That's going to wrap it up for the show today. We'll see you next Sunday morning at 10 o'clock right here on It's 38. Spread the word, tell a friend. And you can also watch live on WBQC.com. WBQC.com. You can watch the show live. So anybody around the country can see this show right here live on WBQC.com. We'll see you next week.